All right, so here's a look at what I call my single trunk chafflera bonsai. This is actually the oldest chafflera that I have. It was my first chafflera. It was like 6 feet tall. Somebody at my office, when we were moving offices, gave it to me. He didn't have space for it or want it anymore, and he gave it to me. I'd never seen one before or even heard of it. This was years ago. And I brought it home. It sat there for months, and then I did a little research, figured out what it was, started chopping it down, and here it is. And now it's sort of a raft style, I guess you could say, just the way it has turned out. I was trying to get some aerial roots growing off of this. Sort of failed on this one. I'm actually gonna clean this up a bit because I need to accept the fact that this little bulge is never going to be aerial roots. I kept hoping it would, but I was looking at that thinking, maybe it is. It's not. I need to accept that it's not. So I'm gonna chip away at this real quick. Yeah, that's just dried bark there. Down there, I don't think that is. No, it seems pretty dry. So I'm just gonna try to clean this up here without damaging the actual trunk that it's attached to. Yeah, super dead. Made the right choice. Chip away just a little more. Sorry if my arm is right in the camera. Super dead. I was still a little nervous. I was afraid I was gonna cut into that and we'd see some live vein and, oh no, I was so close to aerial roots. But no. There we go. Looks a little dirty, but I think overall it looks better. Doesn't have that weird dead bulge right there. I need to quit while I'm ahead, I think. I think I got the rest of it. Yeah, so anyways, this is it. I did a partial defoliation to it, so it's got some kind of weird structure with it right now. Got sort of leaves going in all directions, but when I repotted it into this shallow pot, I want to say springtime, probably the wrong time to do it, but I did it. When I did that, it didn't respond well because of the fact that I did it a little too early. And so I just let it grow out. But then once it gets leaves like this, where it's kind of old and thick and hard, if you cut right behind, I don't want to do this. I'm a little afraid on this one because it's the only one on this branch. But I'll give you an example somewhere else. Let's say, let's pick on this guy back here. If you cut right behind the petal like that, and now what'll happen, this will turn yellow and fall off, and smaller leaves will sprout. So if you time it just right, you can sort of spawn new growth. I'm gonna say manually that way. So that's just a quick look at my single trunk chafflera bonsai, my oldest chafflera that I've got. Let me show you a couple others. All right, so this is my willow leaf ficus. I got this just at a nursery around town, kind of a small little boutique type nursery. About a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. I'm gonna say 1.5 years. I think it was right when the COVID thing happened. And it looked similar to this, except was in a different pot, obviously. I didn't know much about willow leaf ficuses, and I read some info out there that I think was incorrect. I read that they don't love a lot of water, and so I only lightly watered it. I repotted it, put it in this pot, and it almost died. It lost almost all the leaves. I'd say it had half a dozen leaves left on it and was just barely hanging on to life. And so I did a little more research, and somebody said they love a lot of water, a lot of humidity, a lot of water. And I went, okay. So I just started overwatering it, spraying it with water all the time, just dousing it with water. And sure enough, just bounced right back. So I can't say for sure if that's what it is. I don't have a lot of experience with these. This is the only one I've ever had, but I'll say it worked that time. So anyways, that's about it. Just want to give I think I've done some light intros on this before. I've never done a full video on it or really looked at it in depth. So I do like it. I mean, talk about taper. Look at that. It's almost an exaggerated bulge, like too much taper in a way. I'm sort of hoping that smooths out at some point. I'm sure it will. But I love how that base flares out, the root flare. And it's just a fun little tree. I mean, I think the pot suits it well. It's just a fun little tree. That's about all I can say for it. I have yet to ever, except for when I repotted it, where I trimmed it just a little, I've yet to do any pruning to it at all in a year and a half because of the fact that it almost died. And since then, I've just been letting it grow and want it to regain all its strength. The last thing I want to do is start snipping away at it and zap its strength when it's just bounced back. But that is an intro to my little willow leaf ficus. So let's look at, I think I got a couple more here. I'll show you. All right, so this is a ficus Benjamina. I've always referred to it as my work bonsai because it started off as a little stick in a pot about that big a few years ago. And then, you know, it is what you see now. The first thing I'm going to point out is just how hideous the branch structure is. I mean, look at that. It makes no sense whatsoever. Because it was my work bonsai. It mostly sat in the window. I mean, I would look at it occasionally if I'm on the phone thinking, oh, I need to really fix that or prune this or prune that. And then, you know, I'm at work. So it just, I can't even give a good valid excuse for this structure. It just sort of happened this way. But it's not terrible for being... I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth because on one hand I'm saying it's hideous and ugly. On the other hand I'm saying it's not terrible. It's just a little both. I guess it's all in your perspective. It's all in how you look at it. On the positive side, I will say it's got some decent taper. I left this big root down here just to help thicken this up for the taper. It's not the best taper in the world, but it's got some. You can at least see it. It's visible. Still got a long way to go. I've recently sort of gone into this shape where it's sort of starting down here and then gradually coming up to a point here. Don't ask me why. I think I'm just going with the hideous, ugly, make no sense, awkward duck thing. Seems to be working for me on this. But I like it. It's unique. That's the word I was looking for. If nothing else, it's unique. That only a work bonsai could develop in this way. A neglected windowsill bonsai. So there it is. It looks like I do need to do some, as I'm looking at it, yeah. So hopefully by third quarter next year, I'll get to this right there for sure. That's my work bonsai. Got another pretty cool looking chafflera that I'll show you, and then I'll give you a look at my dwarf pomegranate. Okay, so look at this guy. This guy's name is Chefy. Chefy the chafflera. Really cool aerial roots. Got kind of a one big thick trunk going into a triple trunk action, which is sort of unusual. I don't see a lot of chaffleras that look like this. So this was at my girlfriend's house for a year or so, up in a window that was facing south. I mean, it was really the perfect conditions. I thought it would just thrive up there. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's too drafty or what, it didn't thrive. So I brought it back here so I could put it in intensive care, keep an eye on it, see what was going on. I put it outside and I figured that would do the trick, and it did. It bounced back when it went outside. But the problem is that it just started growing straight up. So I got rid of all the older leaves on it to spawn new growth, which it has done. It's starting to, as you can see there. So Chefy here is a bit of a free spirit. He kind of just does whatever he wants to do whenever he wants to do it. If he wants to grow wild, he grows wild. If he wants to just stop growing, he's like, heck with you guys, I'm just gonna stop growing. So, and that's why we love him. So that's Chefy, the chafflera. I got one more here to show you. Okay, last but not least, this is my dwarf pomegranate. Now, why am I showing you this? I'm sure you're wondering. It's in this ugly training pot. It's not been trimmed since who knows when. It has absolutely no structure to it at all. But the reason that I'm showing this to you is just to show you the potential that it has and what I'm kind of doing with it at the moment. So the parent pomegranate that this came off of died, which I showed you a few minutes ago out there on the balcony. So that one died. Luckily, before it died, this was just a small branch that I took as a cutting. I want to say it was late fall of 2019. And it sat in a bottle of water literally that entire fall and winter. And then in spring, I put it in a pot, almost died, and then it came to life and just took off from there. So it took off from there. This is it now. I mean, it's got cool movement in the trunk there, which I think is where the potential is. So there's obviously a lot of structural flaws to it. It's going to need some attention there. But until then, I've been using it to take more cuttings, as you saw out there on the balcony. I've got, I don't know, 5 or 6 cuttings from it that I've taken. So it has now grown up and become the parent, where the parent tree died and this little child tree grew up, and now it's the parent making new little pomegranate babies. So I'm not going to really bonsai it for now. The reason I'm letting it grow so wild now is I really want to see it develop some fruit. The parent one that this came from did that for me once or twice. I didn't know what I was doing at the time because I didn't even know it was a pomegranate. I bought it just as a clearance $8 tree, had no idea what it was. They didn't know what it was. So the first thing that happens is it develops these bright red flowers, super pretty. And then those, you know, that's where the fruit comes from. So the parent tree developed those red flowers, and then, you know, I pruned them off thinking, oh, I'll save the energy. Didn't know I was getting rid of the fruit. So it almost developed fruit for me. I'm trying to get this one to do it. And that's hard, let me tell you. If you're anything like me and you've got trees that look like this, you just want to go at it. You just want to, oh, let me just snip this up, clean this up a little bit. So it's really hard for me to leave it alone like this, but that's what you've got to do with pomegranate, because the flowers and the fruit come from the tips of the branches. So that's it on this guy. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. All right, guys. So that's it for this update. For anybody who, by some miracle, is still watching at this point on this really long update, thank you. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Now, I do appreciate everybody who watches these videos and likes and subscribes and comments. And I learn a lot just from reading all the comments. You know, I do not have all the answers by far, obviously. So I learned something every time I post a video. People have good comments on there, you know, for the most part, they're good. I would say 99% of the comments and commentary is positive. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you for liking and subscribing and commenting. Hope you enjoyed this update. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your night.